You're listening to the Fresno Housing Spotlight, a behind-the-scenes look at how Fresno is working together to create housing opportunities and changing lives. I'm Tyrone Roderick Williams, CEO of Fresno Housing, and welcome to the show. Joining me for this episode is Matthew Grundy, the Deputy Mayor for the City of Fresno. Thank you for joining us.
Tyrone, glad to be here.
Oh, well, I am really excited to have this time with you together because in this episode, we're really going to talk about the housing crisis. And from the city's standpoint, the mayor's approach to developing a plan and implementing a strategy to really begin to address the many different aspects of the strategy. And so I know that you have spent a great deal of time with you along with so many others, and I've had an opportunity to participate as part of that, and I'm really appreciative. But just kind of share the scope and depth of the crisis in Fresno. We know that there's a national crisis, there's a state crisis, but for this podcast, we want to talk about Fresno.
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, again, Mr. Tyrone Roderick Williams, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Really excited about what this podcast is doing. And I think as we share important information that impacts each one of us in one way, shape, or form as it pertains to affordable housing or lack thereof, I think this is a very apropos conversation at the right time in the right place. So thank you. I'll tell you that at the heart of this is exactly what you said, a housing crisis. It's no secret that our nation is in the midst of a housing crisis. Or 1 in 3 households in our nation are cost burdened. And, for those listening in, cost burden means you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, right? In our state, it's more pronounced where 1 out of 3 are severely cost burdened. And for those who are listening in, what that means is that you're spending more than 50% of your income on shelter. Whenever anyone's spending more than 50% of their income on their housing, they're making some tough choices in life. Food or shelter, health care or shelter. Decisions no one should have to make. And here in Fresno, it's even on the cost burden side, it's even more pronounced, where nearly 2 out of 3 residents, households here in Fresno are cost burdened, meaning they're spending more than 30% of their income on shelter.
Hold on now. 2 out of 3.
Yeah, nearly 2 out of 3, about 60%, yeah.
Approximately 60% or cost burden. Clearly, that's got to have not only a housing impact, but an economic impact on a wide range of people here in our city.
Absolutely, and frankly, a life and life outcome impact. I mean, I'll take a quick tangent just to share a little bit about myself, which is, this housing plan and our housing needs are very personal. I know for myself, years ago, my mom was diagnosed terminally ill. My dad was laid off from his job, and so we went poor keeping her going. And as a result, we found ourselves homeless my junior and senior year in high school. Life happened. And for many who are cost burdened, they are one situation away from not only lacking safe and decent housing, but lacking housing altogether. And so it's a very difficult challenge that we're all grappling with. Of course, Fresno and the city of Fresno is not dissimilar to other cities all across our state and nation that are grappling with these challenges around affordable housing and housing our unhoused. But we want to do what we can here locally to address these challenges. So it is a crisis, and we're trying to respond.
Well, I really appreciate when you and the mayor reached out to me and asked me to be a part of crafting a strategy that really focuses on addressing critical issues across the whole housing spectrum for the next 3 to 4 years. And that's been an ongoing process. Just kind of share, as the chief cook and bottle washer, head cat herder for all of the efforts to pull that plan together. Just talk to us about how that, first of all, the idea came about and how it has emerged and where we're going.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. This all starts with a vision. Our our housing strategy is called the One Fresno Housing Strategy. It's important for me to start off talking about what One Fresno is, because that vision is a vision that's been articulated by our mayor, Mayor Jerry Dyer. When he was on the campaign trail, he heard things from folks from all walks of life, from both sides of the aisle, from north, south, east, west, rich, poor, black, white, with what they really aspired for and desired for Fresno to be. And we crafted that in a statement called the One Fresno Vision. And that vision is that we realize an inclusive, prosperous, beautiful city where people take pride in their neighborhoods and community. And that we have a government that listens, keeps its promises, and is owned by the people. That's called One Fresno. And at the heart and at the center of that vision is this thought that every person matters, every person is valuable, and each and every person in this city deserves investment and access to resources and opportunities and services ultimately to thrive in Fresno. And so that's really the root of what this One Fresno vision is. And so accordingly, our One Fresno housing strategy carries that vision into the space of housing and affordable housing. And so the mayor convened a group of us, myself, yourself included. I know you saying I'm the herder of cats, but no, I like to consider myself the guide on the side instead of the sage on the stage.
Okay, all
and
right.
I'm just one
I'm
of...
going to adopt that. A guide on the side instead of the sage on this. Okay. All right, I got it.
You got it? So I'm just one of many who are concerned and care about the future of Fresno's housing situation. And so anyways, we got together, Mayor convened this group back in January of this year, and we went on a sprint of as fast as we can, moving along to create this One Fresno housing strategy that we just released publicly yesterday. And so on the heels of that, we're excited of what's in that plan. Perhaps we're going to talk about that here shortly. But it really aims to address our city's 3-year housing, affordable housing, and helping our homeless in the city of Fresno.
Well, as you shared, every city's grappling with this. But what was unique about, I think, this is the wide range of housing opportunities and options that we sought to cover. But what came out of this is some staggering statistics that I think most of our listeners or our viewers would not readily be aware of if they hadn't dived into all of the statistics. I think share with us some of the statistics and numbers that came out of us investigating the depth of the crisis here in Fresno.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, what I'll say is that there are unique challenges to Fresno. While we share similar challenges with every other likely city and state across the union, there are unique challenges in terms of housing right here in Fresno. And so we sought to understand those. We want to make sure that we're clear about the unique housing, affordable housing challenges of Fresnans. And there's some pretty eye-opening statistics. The fact of the matter is this plan, what we aim to do is to be very clear with the challenges unique to Fresno, to share those broadly and widely across Fresno through this housing strategy, but then secondly, invite everyone in to be part of the solution, because the city of Fresno is, and local government is not the sole answer. This strategy is not the silver bullet. It's going to take all of us because we didn't get here overnight. It's going to take us some years to get out of this current situation we're in. That said, there's some pretty staggering statistics. We were talking about cost burden. We know now that there are 21,000 households in the city of Fresno that cannot pay more than $500 a month lest they be cost burdened.
$500 a month
on housing. $500 a month.
Anything over
is
cost
they're
burden.
Now in cost burden. They're now spending more than 30%
How
of
many
their
people?
income on shelter. 21,000 households. So numbers like that are pretty telling, because we sit back and think, who's building those units?
Yes.
Who
can?
Where does that pencil, right? And it doesn't. So this plan has required us to look under every nook and cranny, every rock, and take on both national and regional and state best practices, to consider input and feedback from various reports over the last decade that over 3,000 residents have spoken into here in the city of Fresno, and take all of that and say, let's come up with some recommendations that can address the specific needs and pretty telling and scary statistics like the one I just shared with you.
Well, I know that the plan looks at many different, looks at multifamily, single family home ownership, explores many different housing options for the unhoused, and even looks at what can be done to trigger market rate development, looking at infrastructure development through a lens of equity and inclusion as well. And so as you shared, the plan was just presented to the City Council yesterday as this broadcast is being recorded. But what's next?
Yeah, so great question. So yesterday, let me tell you a little bit about the plan to give proper context for what's next.
Okay.
So this 3-year strategy was just revealed. Within the 3-year strategy, we've outlined 47 affordable housing recommendations. Those 47 recommendations call for an investment of over $101 million over this 3-year period to realize over 4,700 affordable units.
Say that number again.
4,700 affordable units.
Okay.
In addition to over 4,000 market rate units.
Okay.
So we think that investment is a very strong investment. Some folks may hear, oh, $101 million, that's a lot. Considering the cost of affordable housing, deploying it, that's actually a drop in the bucket. But as we stack it and leverage those dollars, that's actually an investment well spent to yield those sort of outputs that I just mentioned. The second part of the plan outlines, or the strategy outlines, 24 recommendations.
In addition to the 47?
In addition to the 47 on affordable housing,
All right.
there's 24 that are focused on housing those who are unhoused. And those 24 recommendations specifically call for an investment of $153 million.
In addition?
In addition.
Okay.
So now if we do the math, we're up at about $254 million investment, right, over the next 3-year period that will also, on the affordable, on the unhoused side, that will yield over 2,000 additional units. So all in, there's 47 affordable housing recommendations, 24 that are focused on housing the unhoused, all in over $250 million worth of an investment that will yield over 6,000 affordable housing units and shelter units, in addition to over 4,000 market rate units. And that's what our community needs right now.
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna let you take a breath.
Okay, thank you.
So
because that was the context.
That was the context. So having come up with this strategy, moving forward, it was presented for City Council and the general public for comments. We know that the council sits at the center of being able to, one, provide the funding, or attract the funding, or leverage the funding. Talk to us about the next steps to making this plan and strategy begin to yield reality and units.
Yeah, so thank you for allowing me to take the breath behind the context to say the next steps. So I'll go back and say that, when I talk about and spoke about the One Fresno Vision and this One Fresno housing strategy, this strategy was a derivative of the mayor's first priority, which is focused on housing and homelessness. So the mayor's outlined 6 priorities. This first one is housing and homelessness. When he took when we took place here in city government, took our seats in January of 2021, we had an urgent and important need addressing some of our most vulnerable, our homeless that were living on our freeways. We had, over a period of a week and a half, Tyrone, 3 of our unsheltered walk into oncoming traffic and die.
Within a week and a half period.
Within a week and a half. And then over the previous 12-month period, we had 618 fires started on our freeways by those who were unsheltered trying to keep warm. And so we wanted to respond to that urgent and important need. And so we partnered with the state, we partnered with the Housing Authority and many other agencies to try to secure some emergency shelter by converting hotels to house and provide services to our most vulnerable. We're happy to say that in that first year, we were able to shelter and provide wraparound services to over 500 of our homeless neighbors, and our freeways, fortunately, are now free of those who are most vulnerable and at risk of that environment. This plan was a medium-term plan. Again, I mentioned it's not the silver bullet solution. It's a medium-term plan. We think that if we employ and roll out the steps and the recommendations, make these recommendations, we can make a significant dent in addressing the city of Fresno's housing and homeless crisis. Our next steps, now that we've rolled this out, are to take each one of those recommendations, where applicable and where it's required, where it requires council action before the council, whether it's a policy recommendation, a funding resolution, a code modification. Over the coming weeks and months, as a part of this 3-year plan, city staff is going to be bringing those items forward, both for public discourse and for council approval. So we can expect each of those 47 plus 24, where applicable, to be brought before council so we can roll them out and meet the desired outcomes of this strategy.
Well, I just want to say that this has been a Herculean effort, but without your leadership, the plan could have never been completed and presented. And I just want to publicly thank you and your skill at not only taking and compiling the information that was presented, but just in coordinating all of the meetings that took place to make the plan a reality. Here, I just want to say thank you. On behalf of all of those people who don't even know who you are, but as these recommendations are approved, the guy who was homeless is opening the doors of housing opportunities for thousands of people here in Fresno, and I just want to say thank you, man. It's been an effort and a joy to work with you. And one of the great things about being the CEO of Fresno Housing is we are partnering. We're not standing on the sidelines just watching. We have the opportunity to partner, and we have partnered with the city in acquiring motels through Project Home Key, and are working collaboratively with the city and other service providers in providing emergency housing for those who are currently unhoused. We're working with the city and looking at the next step, which is, permanent supportive housing. So moving those from kind of temporary housing situations into permanent housing where they can have the support to go and grow as they can and will. And we're happy about that. We are developing affordable housing throughout the city, and without the city's support and funding, we could not be competitive in competing with so many other cities and other developers throughout the state. I'm happy to say that we have a stellar reputation for acquiring the funding, but it's all about leveraging dollars. And the city has just been a phenomenal partner. We see ourselves from the housing standpoint really joined at the hip. Without the city's ongoing support, we can't continue to do all that we're doing when it comes to developing the housing. So was really pleased to see, as we had these discussions, that Fresno Housing was really viewed as an integral partner in addressing our housing challenges here in the city, as opposed to just a bystander who shows up with their hand out asking for funding. And so we are committed to doing everything that we can and partnering with you. So in the coming years, the plan is a 3-year strategy. We know, it sounds like there are going to be a whole lot of items on the board agenda for the next couple of months, or even as these years unfold. What is the ultimate goal?
Yeah. That's a great question. We want to, the ultimate goal of the strategy is to produce sufficient housing to meet the needs and at a price point that every Fresno resident can afford. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
And you helped write that goal. I want to thank you for that, because we can't put our heads together, and I appreciate what you shared earlier about the Fresno Housing Authority's role in all of this. And that's, again, part of the objective of this plan, to say, here are our challenges, but we need everybody to do their part. We're all in this together. It's our community. From a former homeless man who, you know, they say it's cliche, but it takes a village. It's very true. It takes all of us to come together. This is not those people's problems. This is our city. This is One Fresno. And at the core, to answer your question, at the core, what do we hope? We want everyone to know that they're cared for, that they matter, that we may not agree on all the recommendations or the policies. There's no city's fully figured it out. We don't pretend to think that this thing is perfect. Our plan or strategy is perfect, but we think, oh my goodness, it's good. And we think it's going to take us steps forward to addressing the challenges that have been unmet in the recent past. And so I just want to thank you for that. I think at the end of the day, people are at the center of this plan. People, human beings, someone's mom, someone's dad, someone's sister, someone's son or daughter, someone who's sleeping out there who are all of those things and are vulnerable. We care about each person. So my hope is that people feel loved and that practically this plan will help us create sufficient inventory and housing product at a price point that every Fresno resident can afford.
Well, I am elated to be a partner in the process. And I look forward to continuing down this pathway. This is a marathon, brother. This is not a sprint.
Not for the faint of heart.
Or for the faint of heart either. But I've enjoyed having this opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you.
So today's guest has been Matthew Grundy, Deputy Mayor of the city of Fresno. And we look forward to more conversations in the future.
Indeed.
But to learn more about all that's going on at Fresno Housing, please visit us at fresnohousing.org or follow us on social media. So thank you for listening. And until next time, we're Fresno Housing.